Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. The trial of Paul and Ruben Flores continues today with day 4 of testimony. The father and son duo are charged in connection with the death of Kristin Smart, with Paul being charged with murder and Ruben as an accessory to knowing about the crime. Now, today the state has called 2 witnesses close to the victim in the case, Kristin Smart's sister and a friend that she went to a party with the night she disappeared. To get us caught up on what's happening in that California courtroom is Court TV field producer Adrian Luis. Adrian, great to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me. She joins me on the phone. Now, Adrian, Kristin Smart's sister took the stand earlier today, as I said. Recap for us what she testified about.
Well, Michael, so Kristin Smart's sister, Lindsay Smart, was in the courtroom today. She testified much to the similar testimony as the rest of her family. She talked about how close their family was. She talked about how supportive Kristin was when it came to swim meets and how Kristin encouraged her. She said that Kristin was like a mini mother to her, that she inspired her to do better and to continue to work hard. And then later on, when Kristin disappeared, Lindsay said that she was around 8th grade at the time, and it was certainly a devastating blow to her. And later on, when she graduated, Kristin wasn't there to be with her. And Lindsay said that that was a massive milestone when my sister wasn't there. That was really hard. She said that was a huge event, and she just wasn't there.
All right. Now, there was a friend as well who testified today. She actually went to that party with Smart the night that she disappeared, and she testified about what happened. What did we learn from her?
So we heard from Margarita Campos. Margarita lived in the same dorm as Kristin. She actually lived in the dorm room next to Kristin. And what we learned from her is actually there were 2 parties that Kristin had attended that Friday night on Memorial Day weekend. Margarita said that in her testimony, Kristin and some other girls had gone to a smaller party, and at some point, they all headed back towards the dorms, and that she and Kristin had gotten dropped off somewhere near campus on some intersection called California and Foothill. I believe you have a map that kind of shows the distance between this intersection and that dorm. It looks like it's about a 20-minute walk. And Margarita said that at that point, when they were dropped off, she and Kristin kind of had a back and forth. Both kind of wanted to go in the direction of their dorm, but couldn't agree on which direction to go. Margarita said that the way that Kristin had wanted to go was in the direction of another party, but that Margarita didn't feel quite like she wanted to socialize for the rest of the night. And that was the last time that she had seen Kristin. And in her testimony, she said, quote, "It was a bummer. It was a bummer memory. That was a memory I replayed in my head many times. I shouldn't have left her by herself, and she shouldn't have left me by myself. We should have stuck together."
Yeah, that's just tragic. I mean, we've all been there.
Yes.
All right, so let's move on now. We heard from 2 witnesses today. I know that's California, so you're on a different time frame. What's coming up next? What else can we expect?
So we're still very on in the state's case, Michael. We're still hearing from some former students at Cal Poly. We're currently on Cheryl Manzer. She was with Kristin at that party, and she walked with Kristin on the way back to the dorm at the larger party. This was the second party that Kristin was at. This is at the second party, Paul was seen with Kristin. He had been, other witnesses had testified to him staring at her, and then Kristin was appeared to have been intoxicated at that time, and Cheryl Manzer testified to seeing Kristin being intoxicated and walking with her and another friend, Tim Davis, home. And on the way back to the dorms, she said they stopped several times and that Paul had encouraged Cheryl to go her own way and that he was going to take Kristin back to her dorm on her own. So other than that, I think we will hear from more students that testified to at that party, and then possibly Jeremy Moon, who is expected to testify about spending time with Paul after that party and witnessing a black eye on his face. And we'll probably hear more detail as to what Paul said about that black eye.
All right, Adrian Luce, thank you so much for that report. Truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll let you go now. Bring back in my guests here, criminal defense attorneys Franz Borghardt and Marie Peretta. And Marie, I'll start with you. The question I have for you is, now that Marguerite, the one we heard from Margarita, she was cross-examined on some interviews that she did with a podcast, which the podcast was one of the catalysts to keep this story going over the 26 odd years that this case was open. And she was asked about it, and she said, you know, the podcast itself was really aiming towards Paul being guilty, and that she had come to believe that Paul was guilty. So my question to you is, do these podcasts really help or hurt the state in instances like this?
I think it could cut both ways. I think you'd want to avoid the court of public opinion and demonizing him from the outset. I think that they are not looking at it from a legal standpoint. Even an interview I heard earlier before I appeared on your show, the guy was saying, oh, just the mere fact that he wasn't talking says that he's guilty. And they're not understanding there's a level of innocence that's presumed. You don't have to make a statement. You don't have to jump up and down and say it wasn't me. And just because you didn't say it doesn't mean you're guilty. And I think the people in these podcasts are looking at it from an emotional point of view and not from a legal aspect, and it could really hurt a prosecution.
Yeah, and I think it's a great job by the defense to get this witness to admit that, yes, in fact, they do believe that this person's guilty. I mean, that casts some doubt on their testimony. Franz, quickly, how much does it matter, you think, to a jury when a case is this old, 26 years old? How much does that weigh on their mind, or they just listen to the evidence and move on from there?
Very quickly, if I'm a juror, I want this family to have closure. And so if I'm putting myself in the shoes of the victims, I think that does matter, and I think it's very important. Cold cases are at the front of our brains. They're entertainment, you know, in TV. So I think jurors do care about these kind of cases.
All right.